Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a sweet little girl who was called Little Red Riding Hood because she always wore a red hooded cape that her grandmother had given her. One day, her mother asked her to bring a basket of cakes and some wine to her grandmother, who was ill, and reminded her not to stray from the path. Little Red Riding Hood obeyed and set off. On her way, she met a wolf. The wolf asked where she was going, and the naive girl told him she was going to visit her grandmother. The wolf immediately devised a plan and told her there was a shortcut through the forest that would be faster. Little Red Riding Hood thanked the wolf and followed the path he suggested, unaware that it was a trap to harm her and her grandmother. Meanwhile, the wolf rushed to the grandmother's house. He knocked on the door and imitated Little Red Riding Hood's voice. The grandmother, thinking her granddaughter had arrived, opened the door. The wolf immediately jumped in and swallowed her whole. Then he put on her clothes, lay in bed, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. When Little Red Riding Hood reached her grandmother's house, she was surprised to see that her grandmother looked different. She asked, "Grandmother, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear." "Grandmother, what big hands you have." "All the better to hug you with, my dear." "Grandmother, what big mouth you have." "All the better to eat you with." Immediately, the wolf jumped up and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood whole. Fortunately, a huntsman passing by heard the cries for help and rushed to the house. He opened the door and saw the wolf sleeping soundly after its feast. The huntsman took out his knife, cut open the wolf's belly, and rescued Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. Then they filled the wolf's belly with stones and sewed it up. When the wolf woke up, it tried to run away but fell down and died because of the heavy stones. From then on, Little Red Riding Hood always remembered her mother's advice and never followed the words of strangers. This story teaches us an important lesson about being cautious with strangers and always following the advice of adults to stay safe.